actually. I thought about that, and I wish you guys would talk about that. Like that, those trains are so small for a city of potentially 2 million. What's the thinking behind
It's
it?
a major arterial connection.
Was it just a rush job for the Olympics?
There should be 100,000 people daily though.
And
On
during
a
the
daily
Olympics,
basis.
that number was greater than 200,000 people on weekdays on a daily basis during the Olympics.
Do you know the potential that the New York City transit system has daily, for example?
The New York City population
That's
is
a
significantly
different example.
Vancouver has a growing, rapidly growing population that will need that.
But it was built 100 years ago in New York. It's been able to adapt for that change.
That's the same as comparing the transit system back home in Norway, where my population and my city is 500,000
Mhm.
in Oslo,
Yeah.
towards Vancouver, which has 5 million.
The London Underground, for example, is always undergoing more and more construction and renovations. And for example, in 2016, they're planning on starting the new development of the Evergreen Line, another expansion to the transit system.
Well, isn't that contradictory to your statement that it wouldn't have occurred without the Olympics?
Well, I think
You
that
said
is
it's
probably
gonna
occurring
happen
because
in
they
2016.
see like a
Wouldn't it
need
have
for it to be expanded upon. But who knows whether or not it would have just actually gotten created and any kind of a system would have gotten in place if it wasn't for the Olympics. The Olympics were that like catalyst that got it.
Even though the federal funding came in through the Olympic bid, the transit system was built for today's current situation with a very narrow view for the future. And upon further expansion, Vancouver will be left paying additional costs to expand, which will be a lengthy, costly process. It will affect numerous external things, such as the transit line may need to be shut down at certain stations. Roads nearing the transit lines may need to be taken over for construction. It will cause a headache in the future. But not only that, it will cause congestion. It will cause,
I'd say that that would be the case for anything, even if you can't really build something for the next 100 years. You can't predict what.
Well, next 5 years would be a good idea.
And
Well, the next 5 years, but then the next 5 years, you're gonna have to run into the congestion problems in the same way.
Give me your best shot on why the Olympics were beneficial for, well, the lower mainland, let's say, if not BC. Why were spending so much money on those Olympics? It's interesting that Vancouver is on a peninsula and so is the Crimea. And so is Sochi, right? Yeah. So, give me your best shot on why, because I'll disclose my bias. I don't find that I didn't think it was a smart one. So convince me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, so
My gut feeling is that money could have been well spent by setting priorities, cost-benefit analysis priorities, and then going for the most important first, rather than superimposing some sexy project like the Olympics.
Right, that's the problem when they're getting the bid, they do economic impact analysis, which isn't cost benefit analysis, it doesn't talk about like the opportunity cost of doing this. Like,
Did they do a cost-benefit analysis on the overall costs and benefits of the Olympics? Did the government do that?
like before the Olympics got started?
Before we made our proposal? Was that cost-benefit?
No, there was no cost benefit analysis.
If I may interject, many of the, and quite a lot of the data that the opposing side has collected is from the Pricewaterhouse analysis, which received $1.9 million from the BC and federal government, meaning that they had to support the interests of the federal and provincial government to present information in a way that didn't reflect larger trends in the national
Well, you know,
economic.
where did you get that information?
You know the definition of an expert. An expert is someone who steals your watch to tell you the time. Right? They tell you what you want to hear. That's a gift.
Well,
You know,
if I may-
Pricewaterhouse being such a big corporation,
Yes.
I don't think they would risk their reputation on being paid by an Olympic host to positively put forward, okay, these numbers are positive and these numbers are negative.
I don't
Why
think
not?
they've skewed the information. I've found that they have had the same information in, for example, the UBC and other privately scholarly funded research articles.
Yeah.
But what they have done is, instead of, for example, while the Price Waterhouse indicated that tourism increased in Vancouver due to the Olympic Games by 4%, while in other major Canadian cities in 2010 saw a larger increase in tourism, and also even in Toronto, tourists spent more money in 2010 than tourists in Vancouver. So it's not that they presenting false information, it's the way that they present it and package the information in a way that can be in the best interest of the people who are funding their research.
Or the politicians.
Or
What's
the
disturbing
politicians.
is, here we go, implementing public policy, and they haven't even done their homework. They haven't done a cost-benefit analysis. So what you've just admitted is, we have no idea whether it's a net benefit. Now, has there been any study afterwards that proves that by accident we did the right thing?
Well, if you're gonna look at a cost benefit afterwards, yes, BC is $1.1 billion in debt, but how you look at that and how like the British Columbians, it's how they value what they got from it, like hosting
Okay,
the
what did
Olympics.
they get from it?
Well, the spectacle, like they were able to go to the Olympics.
Where's the benefits of having, where's the benefits of having the Olympics? What have I benefited from having the Olympics?
I think that's subjective to the person.
Well, it's subjective, that's right.
But it still created real value. I mean, I was here during that 2 weeks. I was quite negative. I thought it was a bad idea before the fact, but the experience that I gained after the fact, I'd be willing to pay for, right? It was great. And so if someone had said, I'll give you this experience for $200, I'd be willing to pay it. So I gained that value. And I think that it's not just Canadians in Vancouver or British Columbia that gained as well. I would imagine that many Canadians, not all, but across the country, would have also gained value from the experience and the national pride.
Well, it's interesting, I had
We
to
have
pay $600 to buy an airplane ticket to get out of Vancouver.
Well, so we have there was a study that was done by the
And why is that? Because I had a Black Hawk down above my building. I had a helicopter hovering over my building, day and night for 2 weeks. Did anyone subsidize my negative externality?
Should have gone to Whistler and watched it.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I was saying,
So I don't
there's
think-
there's a study.
here, I'm putting this question to you. Convince me that I was the odd man out. It was a good thing.
All right, well, we have some statistics, and there was a sociology, like the sociology department at the University of Calgary did a study.
Well, that's right.
Wow, university, so, yeah. So anyway, in 2010, 73% of Canadians surveyed said hosting the games made them feel proud to be Canadian, and 70% said they believed the Vancouver Games were a success.
Which is
That is a
How is
majority.
that translated into economic terms?
This
This
is
is a
this-
sociology discussion.
This is a counter argument for Bateman saying that no one, he's basically saying that people are not putting enough value to the Olympics for it to be a social benefit. So what we're saying now is that evidence from a survey done, counting votes, are actually telling us that 75%.
That proves nothing, that survey, because why don't you do a comparator study and ask them if they would be proud to be a Canadian because they have a very good health care. And then why don't you compare those two? Just going out and saying, are you proud because you bought a new car? There's no opportunity cost comparison. Why don't you say, am I proud of a new car, or am I proud that I put my kid through school? That's the test.
No, but what they are suggesting, and I think it's a valid point, and you even raised it at the beginning, is the fact that part of the value that's created by the event is the intangible. And what that's indicating is that most people said that's positive. It doesn't tell us what the value is, but it said, overall, yes, I got something out of it. And then, of course, you could use a host of different techniques to try and monetize that, to find out what the monetary value was, and then you would have to trade that off against the 1.2 billion net cost. It doesn't include that intangibles.
Did they do that? Did they monetize the goodwill?
No, we couldn't find any study where they monetize it, but that social benefit is still there, so you can't really go,
Well, it could be, but there's
It's
no
all,
cost benefit.
it's all subjective, what,
Yeah, it's just, it could be worth $1,000 versus
it could be
1.2
worth, I
million.
mean, the social benefit could be worth double what the $1.1 million.
Yeah, if you take $1.2 million and divide it by the size of the population, it works out $40 a person. Now, of course, with Bob, it's negative, right? And there's going to be a large number of people like that, but at least it gives you an order of magnitude.
But that's the usual standard argument. That's what lawyers do. They say, well, you know, how much is it worth to have both, to be a paraplegic for the rest of your life? Would you pay $20 a day? Would you pay $40 a day? And then they'll say, well, it's worth $1,000 a day. And then you multiply by their life expectancy, and it works out to, $7 million or $7 billion. So that trick of dividing 1.2 by the population and saying it's only worth $40 is, I think, deceptive. The question is, I would have is this: could we have spent the money better a different way? And convince me that we couldn't have. You intervened in the market and you prioritized Olympics above other things that had, before the Olympics came on the scene, that had a higher priority. Why did this one get bumped up to the top?
So what I would answer to that is Canada being basically a little brother to the US, needing to create a bigger culture, to advertise its culture. Like I said in my beginning, 1.8 billion people worldwide looked at the Olympics. And this branded Canada as an institution for economic activity, international investment, which Vancouver is going to benefit from our point of view in the long term. And I think that's, like just seeing now, TED Talks being downtown, moved itself, one of the biggest conferences in the world, moving itself from LA and up to Vancouver, with 1 billion people are looking at this conference when it occurs. And this shows that Vancouver is now getting more and more international, which I believe is a good thing for Canada, to get on the international market and on the international map.
Why?
It's not nation, branding of the nation.
That's going to facilitate.
That's good.
Yeah.
Why?
That's what's going to help facilitate net exports, foreign investment, foreign
It is?
consumption.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's more.
All right, thanks. So we'll give the negative side the last word.
Well, to respond to that last one, BC Stats in 2012 found that there was no substantial increase in export goods, and as well has the investment that has come into BC in 2011 and 2012 has, although been above national average, it has lagged behind Newfoundland and Alberta in increase in investment, and GDP growth has also been behind Alberta and Manitoba, meaning that a large argument for investment coming in to BC doesn't indicate a direct cause from the Olympic Games, when other provinces have seen benefits from investment who haven't hosted the Olympic Games.
Hey, Rob, that's their Okay, great job. Excellent choice. It's obviously contentious. It's obvious that you've done your homework. I apologize that we moved out of the standard format, but that's because it's an exciting topic and you did a good job. So thanks very much. I still don't know what to think. I have a bias. My bias is the Olympics were not a smart idea. I haven't been convinced that they were a smart idea, but other people would have exactly the opposite bias, and they can support their argument too. So I think at this stage, I feel